Yeah, now we've got some slimy night crawlers. Can it be done? There are some juicy, tasty night crawlers. I hear laundry noise. Okay, welcome back to the world's worst fishing, everybody. I'm your host, Chris Jones, and again, thanks for being here today. So, by popular demand, we are going to show you our Nightcrawler recipe, and not just the recipe, but sort of how you even do a pour like this. What are the temperature needs? What are the timing needs to get the layers and the blending? It's pretty cool, and I think you're going to enjoy seeing the process. And the best part is, it is much simpler than you think. This is nowhere near on the level of the hand-poured snake. However, I have this snake out here to sort of pose a question, right? If we think about worm fishing, right? A soft plastic worm is probably universally the most successful single soft bait in bass fishing history, whether it's a stick worm, Cinco style, or just your old school straight tail worm or ribbon tail worm. They're all pretty much, you know, masters of their craft. But what kind of worms do bass actually eat, right? Go to a lake, do you see a green pumpkin worm swimming around? No. Do you see a June bug worm? No. Do you see a red bug worm? No. What do you see? You see snakes and real earthworms, right? Like actual real world examples of the type of worm that a bass is actually most likely to encounter. So today, it's Nightcrawler's turn. So again, let's just do a quick little overview. You can kind of see the color fades, right, from the lighter shade. Gets a little darker, a little darker, a little darker, and then a little darker even still in the head. And then we accent the tips of the tails. So essentially the whole pattern is trying to shift from the lighter orange to sort of a little bit grayer orange into that dark head. And real quick before we get started, just want to show y'all some recent work in the swim baits. This is the AIG6 mold, and this was sort of a custom hand-poured color match of a bluegill, or a brim pattern that I'll pop a picture of up. Oop, laundry noise. But I'll pop a picture up on screen so you can see what the reference was. And yeah, nice dead meat custom eyeball there to match. This one was pretty cool. Alright, for our first accent layer that's going to go right there in the front of the worm and in the tail, I actually like to use a dark purple. So let's start with 4 drops of black and maybe 2 drops of electric grape. Alright, y'all may remember electric grape from our recent June bug video. And I find that this kind of deep purple, haha, get it? But no, this dark purple accent I think complements sort of all of the pinks that, you know, some of the pink hues that you get out of a Nightcrawler. Alright, saturation's looking good, maybe a little bit more purple. I just find it to be better than just using straight black by itself. Okay, this is the fun part. To get that shading right there in the head, we basically just want to pour across the heads. Here we go. Alright, and so naturally what that does is that fills in that plastic and we get sort of an angle, right? It fills in at a pitch, and because the molds are already at full pouring temperature, it blends them in, right? The heat will naturally blend those layers. Let me see if I can get you a close-up of what I'm talking about. Yeah, as you can see there, we have a nice light saturation, and it sort of lets that plastic run into that cavity Just a little bit. That's going to be really nice. Okay, now we get to do it on the tail side. Same process. We just want to pour a nice even stream and just move it across the cavities. Just want to get a little bit of this accent color in the tails. And again, heat will do the same thing. Right? It will fill in and blend. Just like that. And that is how we sort of get those two shaded accent colors, right? Okay? That's how we start the fade of color in this entire pattern here. Stay tuned for the end of the video where I issue you guys a Nightcrawler challenge of your own. Alright, so let's look at a Nightcrawler here, okay? You can see we sort of have this kind of gray fade into that sort of pinkish orange, right? So how do we do that, right? You think of that as like shading. Well, we need a thin layer of a gray, all right? And to do that, you guessed it, we're going to start with sort of a charcoal, okay? So we're add some dead on black. We're going to start with 2 drops, okay? See where that gets us, because we are basically going to pour a very precise thin laminate here, okay? And so we don't need much saturation, maybe one more. Maybe one more, okay? And then some gray powder so that you see the gray come through, all right? And this is just plain Jane silver mica powder, just stuff I've had for probably 10 years or more. All right, but never throw away even your old basic stuff, because there comes the day, right, when you're going to want it. Yeah, check that out. All right. And to sort of help this fade into the body color, we are going to spike it with a little bit of pink, okay? Neo magenta. Just a little bit. Oop, that color almost didn't really work. See that? Isn't that nice? All these little nuances can make a difference, all right? So we're just going to keep stirring. Looks like there's still some pigment left on the knife. And that layer right there is really going to make the magic happen. All right, here we go. Just a thin little laminate layer, okay? And we're going to fade it up towards the tail, and I'll show you what I mean. See how we didn't go all the way up? Because we want the colors to fade down towards the head. Alright, the final color build is basically a toss-up. There's a lot of little moving parts to the recipe, so there really is no recipe. So it kind of comes out different each time, right? So we're going to start with some dead on orange. Our kind of body filler color is going to be grit. Okay, that's going to give us sort of our opaquing agent. All right, next we need some pink, because it kind of has to look orange and pink all at the same time. And then we'll probably add some brown to sort of mellow out some colors, okay? And again, this is Dead on Plastics Black Label Swim Bait blend today. Yeah, see how we sort of already are kind of getting that Nightcrawler? All right. However, not quite orange enough. Let's maybe orange it a smidge more. All right. And just kind of see where we get. You can obviously add a powder effect to this, or just sort of whatever you're wanting to do. There's really no wrong way to do it, as long as you kind of capture that orange, pink, brown. It kind of has to look several different colors at once. And a good way to do that is just to sort of combine. Yeah, I'm out of my dead on yellow, so we'll add some LW yellow there. Luckily I have some of that left. Yeah, that'll just kind of brighten it up a smidge. You know, and now we're sort of in the ballpark. All right, these molds have been sitting at 270 degrees for long enough today. I'm sure they are ready to be done. Let's fill in this final layer. There we go. Oh, we overspilled on one spot. But there it is, right? You can kind of see already here in the tail some of that beautiful fade that I'm talking about. Yeah, there it is. Wow. And I know this probably looks like a mess on screen, but I promise you it's not. There's actually a lot of law and order happening right now in these molds. Okay, there it is. Pretty cool. We will do a mold reveal as soon as they are cooled off. Again, these were poured at a even, steady 270 degrees. That is what I consider to be full pouring temperature. That's when most molds are hot enough that they will actually boil water off the surface. And that is when you can do your layering and bonding and get the best bait possible. So we will let these cool down, and we'll take them out, show them to you, and then try to make a pretty creative thumbnail. That'll be fun. Let's see how we did. Huh, looks like there was a little contaminant in that one. Oh, very nice. Yeah. Good fade. Alright. Let's do the next one from the front. Very cool. Looky there. Oop. I swear I'm trying to lay this out nice for you guys. Pretty nice. You can see sort of the fade of the colors, right? Really cool. And what I like the most is how each set of something like this is going to come out a little bit unique. Right? There's always going to be a little bit of variation in something like this, which really keeps it fun and nuanced. Each time you have sort of the you are sort of given the opportunity to do it better than you've ever done it before. Look at that. Very cool. Alright, let's move on over to the bigger worm. The 8-inch here. Go ahead and pull one of these. If I can get it started. Yeah. There it is. Man, oh man. This is a great mold to pour snakes in. They're not very pourable, but I love the way that they look. Really, really cool looking worm. I like the taper of the body. You know, just the overall shape. There it is. What do you guys think? Not bad, not bad. I love the natural fade of it, right? That's why we go to so much trouble to focus on temperature and layering, is so that you get that natural look right there that you really just cannot get any other way. All right, and sort of to drive that point home that each set is going to be a little bit different, a little bit nuanced, which is fun. Here we have the ones that we showed you earlier that we did before, and then here we have today's, right? One is just a little bit darker than the other, as you can see, right? We put maybe a little bit more saturation in the kind of charcoal and accent colors than we did with the ones today, right? So it just kind of comes down to which one you prefer, really. But to drive this point home even more, here they are next to each other. And because it's fun to watch things come out of molds, let's show you the 4.5-inch botworm. Yeah. Alright, so there it is in the botworm. get a few more out here. Yeah, very cool. And last but not least, these 6-inch botworms. We'll yank some out here real quick. Yeah. Really cool. What's cool about the botworm mold is that the tail, especially, is deep enough that we were actually able to layer the tails. Right? If we look close, that's actually a laminate. Really cool there. So yeah, there it is in the 6-inch botworm. The fish ain't worthy. Alright, there they are. Now let's have some fun. Let's make them look like gooey worms. Douse them in some worm oil there. Right? Yeah, now we've got some slimy night crawlers. That's incredible. That's pretty cool. You know how night crawlers at the store come in a cup? That's our cup of night crawlers. Alright, now we're going to try to arrange our night crawlers in some dark potting soil to sort of mimic that photo that we looked at earlier. And this is how you would see real night crawlers presented to you at the bait and tackle shop. So now we're going to get these things real dirty. Yep, there are some juicy, tasty night crawlers in their natural environment. Pretty cool, almost impossible to photograph. What do you guys think? Do they look natural or did we miss? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, we have made it to the end, and now for a little bit of a challenge. I understand and I realize that not everybody likes to open pour or even has open pour molds. However, 3 colors. Triple injector. Who wants to try a triple injector night crawler based on this kind of recipe? It doesn't have to be this exact recipe, but just the idea of having the shading, right? Maybe an accent color and then the main color. Can it be done? That's the challenge. I want to see somebody try. Who's it gonna be? I don't know. Alright, well, we made it to the end. That is the Nightcrawler pour. A really fun pour. Now obviously you can do simpler versions of it. You could just do straight laminates and not necessarily do the the accents on just the tips. However, that does give it sort of a really natural nuance. And it's not so hard, and it's really fun to just kind of pour right along the edge of the mold like we showed you. So anyways, let me know down in the comments below if you thought we did a good match today. It's very interesting how each time again can be a little bit different, and I find that to be really inspiring. The fact that each time you do it, you sort of have the opportunity to maybe do it better than the first time. That's why I don't necessarily just stick to drop by drop recipes, is because I want to allow my colors to breathe a little bit. That way every time I step into my shop, I have a chance to maybe make something better and not just make it a duplicate of something that I did before. So that's something to keep in mind along your bait making journey. Don't be afraid to reformulate as you go. Some of your best colors are going to turn out like that. So thanks for watching today guys. This was really fun, sort of something different, and we will see y'all in the next video.